tell you a couple of yarns. I'll tell you one. It's not sort of quite that. Robin Gray was Premier. We're trying to get land rights from him and his government. And, they were harsh Liberals under Robin Gray. So we decided that we were going to go and throw a rock through the Liberal Party headquarters window up in Bathurst Street. So me, Michael Mansell, are the two who's going to do it. So we get this rock about this big, and we taped newspaper clippings over it about land rights and covered it with plastic. And we had a non-Aboriginal fellow as our getaway driver, I better not name him. And we're standing there in the middle of the street there outside the Liberal Party headquarters, and it was one of those warm nights, and there's people walking backwards and forwards everywhere, and we're waiting for a gap. And finally it came, and so Michael said, yeah, right now. So I got the rock and I go bang straight through this window of this big plate glass shop front window. And as soon as I did that, Michael waves and the car comes around the corner and he runs over the car, and I'm still standing there looking at the window, because all it did was put a little hole like this. And I'm expecting all the glass to come down. And then I could hear, Jam, come on, come on. Oh, yeah, right, you see this? Come on! Right, I rushed off, and I was amazed that all it did was this little hole. Anyway, it caused a stir.
And I had one time when I was in grade 8, I think it was, I competed in the inter-school running team, and I got picked in these 2 events because 2 people got injured. And I was like the next in line. And we went up to the domain, and the domain's got a rubber track. And I broke down crying behind the toilets, and Mum and Nan Mab found me. And they asked me, what are you upset about? And I said, all them kids out there, they all got them flash spike boots. And I said, that's a rubber track. You know, running in these shoes, it's a little bit slippery out there, that rubber track, I'm going to come last. And Nan Mab was the one who told me, and she goes, you take your shoes off and you run black. None of them boys could catch you with no shoes. And it took about 5 minutes. They fired me up so much inside that none of these kids have got a chance. You're Aboriginal boy, and we run. I went out there and whipped, every single student was there. They had state champions and I won the 200 metre. That was the first time that I ended up when I'm taking this and I'm using it. There's power in my identity, and I'm going to fight for things.
From a young age, I suppose, I was exposed to racism. So, I remember at Mayfield Primary School that I won the Sportsman of the Year in grade 6. And I remember a person getting a mother, when they were giving me the awards, a mother in the audience, she yelled out because her son didn't get it and called me a little black bastard or whatever it was back then. And I suppose, from a young age, I wanted to change that. And I was thinking, I don't know what the first sort of protest that I was on that I can remember why I was actually there. And I think it might have been grade 8 at Brooks High School when we had a teacher, Miss Stannis, who was our Aboriginal Studies teacher. And she was, a staunch advocate for, for the black kids in the school, for the Aboriginal kids in the school. And for some reason, they cut her funding. And I just remember, we called it, I forget what it was, our little group that we had, but I just remember all us black young'uns stood up and said, this is not right. And then we rallied up all the school. And before you knew it, there was the whole school was out on the gazebo, this area we called the gazebo, and we were all there protesting, saying, you can't get rid of Miss Stannis. And, white, black, the whole lot of us.
Since I was a child, I was subject to injustice. So it's something I'm very passionate about, changing or understanding the nature of why some people, abuse other people, or why some people even push it to the extreme to kill other people.
What really makes me angry is seeing the world blow each other up. Humans love blowing each other up. Every day there's another son dead, caused by another human being. Another daughter's dead, caused by a human being. The struggle is real, and these things are real. We just don't see it on daily basis.
Definitely, you know, a time in my youth where I was awakened to thinking, hey, actually, we can do anything, and we need to be doing more to be standing up for the rights of people. And there was just a natural progression for me to go from thinking about the rights of people and the rights of youth to see, you know, gigs and bands and go out and be able to experience bands without having to go to clubs, for example. There was just a progression for me that went into nature, to realise that nature was being destroyed and I needed to stand up, and I could do that.
Australia has been founded on chop it down, dig it up, ship it out. And this is making us poorer. It rejects the Indigenous people who cared for the country, who rejected them, and now it's coming to the forefront. We're living in a time now that these changes, we have solutions. It's important that we get on board this year, 2018, to really flip it, because time's going by and we really need to get on with the job of caring for country.
And to be honest, I think this time, the 2018, is the first time I've felt as excited as I did in those early 80s, in the groundswell of movement and change, and like enough's enough, you know, with the whole Stop Adani, the Save the Tarkine, all those things. I think we're, you know, that 30, 35 year cycle where we're flowing back into, like, people are standing up and saying enough's enough.
We can't physically really stop it, whatever it is. You can't stop all the trees being chopped by being there. That's our role. I know it's hard. I know your heart breaks. I know that. But that's not the job of direct action. The job of direct action is to draw the world's attention to what is happening. There's all the other stuff behind, and so my analogy is, imagine a spear. The direct action is the very point of the spear, and behind the spear are the people that are picking up the shopping and dropping people off in the local, whatever it is, group, the support group, and behind that is the local environmental or whatever it is. Then there's the state group, so we're getting wider. Then you get the national, if you've got it on the national agenda. And so, and even if, you know, it can be a big spear if you've got a global thing, but then the most important bit is the shaft, because that's the people. And it's all the people behind that all ends up, and all you're doing is drawing the focus at that place so that the rest of the world will know.
Change is hard to make, but you can sow seeds and get things started that people remember. And I think a lot of our protesting in that early times has resulted in the fact that now you have ecological values being taught in schools and things that just didn't exist in our time when I was in school. So, you know, incrementally things can change, but you've got to work away at it over the years, stick with it.
I kept the base camp, like the home camp for the activists, who'd fly over from all around the world to come and defend the forest, and they had no other connection apart from the forest and their own activist circles. So one morning I woke up and we had news that the World Valley campaign out in the World Valley had been busted. The bulldozers had gone in, cops had gone in, and my friend was out there and she woke up and she saw, I think she saw 64 pairs of boots walk past her tent. There was only 6 people in the World Valley at the time defending the forest. And I got up and I had to go to work in Hobart, got up and got on the bus, went into the city. And when I came back, I went to make myself a cup of tea. When I got home, went to make myself a cup of tea, and I opened up the cupboard and went to get my cups out. There wasn't any cups of mine in there. There was other cups and spoons and saucers and pots and everything. And there was a young woman cooking in the kitchen, and nothing of there was mine. And I went into my bedroom, and there was boxes in my bedroom with all my crockery and cutlery and pots in there. And I walked back out into the kitchen. It was only a 2-bedroom flat, but over that time I probably hosted 300 activists. We had rotations of sleeping shifts, and all that went on. Anyway, yes, I went out to the kitchen, and there's this young fella coming up the stairs, and he'd just come out of the forest, and he was traumatised because the camp had been busted, the cops had been in. He walked into my kitchen, and he picked up a cup, and he cried, and he looked at it, and he said, "This is my cup from out at the camp." And I realised that the entire kitchen had been replaced by the World Valley kitchen. And so for people that had been, displaced from the forest, like we as Aboriginal people know about displacement, but they'd been displaced from the forest, and someone had had the good strategy to bring the kitchen before they arrived. So when they arrived at my home, they had something that they could ground themselves that they'd been using for months in the forest.
It's not for the traumatized side to keep moving, making sacrifices to heal a situation when the oppressing force are still living off the bounty and throwing it in your face. When I had to pay tax in the Australian Taxation Office, the guy told me I owed him $80. I pulled out an imaginary laptop. I know I'm going to pay this $80 because I can't be bothered fighting the argument, but I pulled out an imaginary laptop and I said, on the Aboriginal Taxation Office website, that's a special black app, you need to be black to load this up, it says here, you owe us. And it's fucking heaps. Can I send you an invoice for that? And the guy just cracked up behind the counter and he goes, I know what you're saying, but this is the real world. And I had to say to him, this is the real world.
Always think out of the box. A lot of the stuff we were doing is now cliche and formulaic. And it worries me that it's being restricted. We don't want to be angry. You don't want to show we need to be nice. I don't think we need to be nice. I think we need to be very clear, and I think we need to be confronting and challenging. And I don't think we need to compromise all the time. You do need to stand firm on your line.
There's people out there who are using their craft to be able to protest, just like I'm using what I can in my life to protest as well.
Passion would be more motivating than anger. I think anger can, it almost sounds backwards, but I think for me, anger can incite passion.
When I was younger, I used to get really wild with things, really angry with the state of Aboriginal affairs, not only in the country, but especially in Tasmania. And so I found myself screaming a lot and yelling a lot, and then people sort of put you down as an angry little ant. And so then I found writing, and I found that was a great way to release tension and release anger. But I also found with that, people actually started to listen too.
Every day we got out there, we had to think of something new to do to keep the interest of the media. So, there was songs, skits, all sorts of ways of using our talents to get the message out. And it was an ongoing feast, every day it changed. And I think the theatre of the environment to this very day is still what engages people's hearts and minds. And whether it's someone, pivoted up on a platform up a high old tree in the Tarkine, or whether it's us sitting in the mud on the banks of a river, it's the same thing. This is dramatic, this is amazing, and we as humans are here saying, hey, 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 and yelling, chanting, that's all fine for a short-term thing, but song, music, art, theatre, thinking outside the box, poetry, song, whatever, is what really, it gets away from the intellectual and gets to your heart.
I think music's the only way, really, to be honest, to speak up. For me, anyway, for me to say stuff, it's like only through music, because we could sit down all day, talk about whatever, struggle, whatever, but if we put on the music or make something out of it, it's actually better, because it comes with flavor that make you think. That's songs like a childhood memory, songs like how can we, it's like I'm asking myself a question. The question you should really ask yourself, not me asking you. You should ask you and then find the answers yourself.
Oh, look, when I take a photograph for the newspaper, I hope to capture the story or the idea in that photograph. Because, I mean, flicking through a newspaper too, not everyone reads words, and often it's a photo that draws them in.
Protest has proven that it's an essential role to our democracy, to making change, to defending the wild environments. Protest is absolutely an essential thing for people to get involved in when you see that there's something going wrong.
Maybe Thoreau summed up best when he said, when a law is wrong, you shouldn't buckle under it, you should stand against it, and the world will be the better for you making that stand.
And those reserves like Mount Wellington and others that have been reserves for much longer, that's been by the goodwill of the people, not by legislation. And it's almost like we're going a full circle. We've got laws, the government's now manipulating those laws to enable destruction of the planet, but we, the good of the people, as we saw in Hobart yesterday, is what's going to make them safe. Ordinary people standing up and saying, no, I want my daughters, my grandkids, I want them to be able to hug a big tree that's wider than their arms.
Once you become involved in something that's about your own family, your own community, yourself personally, it's not easy to just walk away and leave it.
Seeing my children practice culture, you know, that's the stuff that fills me with joy, because I go, you didn't win. We fucking still here, you know, we're still going. You know, as much as you're thrown at us, look at this boy. This boy is complete evidence that you have not won. We are still winning.
My younger daughter came home from protest and she's stomping up and down the hallway saying, they stole our land, they stole our rights. Us black fellas will fight, fight, fight. We won't go away, we won't celebrate Invasion Day.
Don't wait for a big protest. You protest everywhere you go. Everywhere. Every time you walk into the doctors and they say, are you Aboriginal? Don't look at them and go, yeah, fucking know if I am. Tick that box.
What really stand up for me is that we can all do better, no matter how much you're doing, how much you think you're doing, or how hard you try to do it. I think you can still do better. It's never ending. You know, every morning the sun rises, every night the sun's die. Easy. So you do so much today, okay, the night come rest and do so much again tomorrow and do so much again the next day. Stand up for the human right. Stand up for the people you think they deserve. Stand up to those who are about to get prosecuted. Stand up to those who are about to get killed. Stand up to those who can't even see for themselves. Stand up to those who can't hear. Stand up to those who can't even feed themselves. I think we can all do better as a people who are living in this place, Australia, Tasmania, Hobart, whatever. I think we can all do better to reach out to each other.
I've been persecuted, I've been